Good afternoon. And on behalf of Kathy, the Layman family, and the Wright and Ford Funeral Home, we'd like to welcome you to John's celebration of life. Also, we would like to welcome the family and friends are on Zoom, that although you could not be here, your presence is felt. As we prepare to celebrate John's life, let's begin by closing our eyes. Now slowly, come to a place in your heart that is quiet and at peace. It could be Sandy Hook, the Finger Lakes, or the shores of Myrtle Beach, some of John's favorite places. Or it could be your own favorite water spot. Now on that spot, you come upon a fishing rod, a tackle box filled with bait, a cooler with some refreshments, of course. You feel a light breeze, but most importantly, you can see John enjoying a beautiful day on the water, catching the most amazing fish, feeling whole and at peace. In the words of John Buckham, the charm of fishing is that it is the pursuit of what is elusive, but attainable, a perpetual series of occasions for hope. John is always with you, and as we celebrate him today, hold on to his face, his laugh, his running commentary, or any of the many things that made him special to you. Let's open our eyes and begin.
Thank you, Maria, for that beautiful welcome. And for those of you I haven't met yet, my name is D.J. Wright. On behalf of my family, again, and our care team, our thoughts and prayers are certainly with you, Kathy, and your whole family. Obviously, we also want to mention John's sister, who I know is live on our camera today, and we are continuously talking about you and keeping you in our thoughts as well. So I always like to begin by telling people kind of what we're going to do so you can stay present. It troubles me when people are always wondering, well, what's the next thing we're going to do, or do I have to get up, or do I have to move? I don't want to mess up with the family. Just relax. Think about John. If you didn't know John, think about the person you know and send them good energy, and just stay present in the moment. My job today is not to tell you about John. You knew him. You knew him a lot better than me. I always get crazy when the preacher stands up there and acts like they were the best friend. No. I consider her one of my dear friends, but I only knew John through Kathy. So then what is my role? Well, I'm going to tell you what I think John would want you to hear were he standing up here right now. Maybe not all of you, but especially you two. Because there's a reason why I put that picture right there. More on that to come. So my role is to talk a little bit about life, death, and everything in between in the eyes of John. And then we're going to open it up to all of you. If anybody wants to come forward and share from your heart, I always tell people, you can't say anything wrong here. This is a room of love. The best things usually come when they are not written down. So just know that you'll have that opportunity later. And then we'll close with everybody having a chance to come forward to just have their moment with John before departing for the afternoon. And by the way, departing for the afternoon does not mean going home. As much as I hate to say it, it doesn't mean going to the new 5 o'clock class at the Max. It means going home to celebrate, yeah, but how? Happily, but how? Come on, y'all killing me right now. Wait. Joyfully? Joyfully, what else? Jesus. Do I gotta... Go watch the football game. Watch the football game and root for the Steelers. You know how much I love Kathy. I'm a diehard Jets fan, and to put these socks on, well, actually to go out and buy the socks, I think Amazon said, wait, you're not a Steelers fan. You sure you don't mean Jets? I must confess, I had a little trouble figuring out where to start today, and you solidified how I was going to do that. Because I told you I love to read Rumi, the poet and the prophet, and I keep one or two for emergencies because they're very good in these kind of situations. And I kind of had one for the end, but you changed my mind, so I'm going to do it in the beginning when you were just talking to me about Rumi before. And this is a conversation type of poem, so I just ask you to bear with me, but I think it'll be apparent why I'm reading it and beginning our time together this way. I said, "What about my eyes?" He said, "Keep them on the road." I said, "What about my passion?" He said, "Keep it burning." I said, "What about my heart?" He said, "Tell me what you hold inside it." I said, "Pain and sorrow." He said, "Stay with it. The wound is the place where the light enters you." On Labor Day at 8:30, when we were all supposed to be together doing our cardio. I've never done a jumping jack in my funeral home, ever, in front of an urn. First time for everything. I got a phone call. Layman, K. She must be late, telling me not to do too many without her. But no. Thank God it's you. I'm in the emergency department with my girls. John's dead. What do I do? I can think of no other visceral, raw wound. But in that pain, there is so much good and there is so much light. We just got to get to a place where we put on the right lenses to see it. I want you to look around. No, turn around. This is that's your light.
I know. Thank you, everybody.
So I like to begin with that because if we don't realize that death hurts and death is a wound and it is something that we need to nurture, we need to take care of, we need to treat, then we're not doing anybody any good. So for you all to go on in the future and don't bring up John's birthday because you don't want to get Kathy upset, or don't bring up John on their anniversary because you don't want to get Kathy upset, or don't mention to the boys around Christmas and Hanukkah about Grandpa's trains because you don't want to get them upset. Well, guess what? They're already thinking about it. That's already there. So by not doing that, you are not treating the wound. We are all truly the light for one another. We just need to remember that. So there's something some of you may know, may not know, and I don't think I'm breaking any trust here. 18 years ago, y'all should have been sitting in these seats. Okay? John had a massive infection around his heart, was frankly dead. They kept him alive via machines and medicines, tossed him on a helicopter, and said, go to Philadelphia. And the three of them figured they would never see John physically alive again. That was 18 years ago. Through the miracles of modern science and a whole lot of love and light, John persevered. He gave strength. He gave resilience. He was changed, but he was here. And I think probably the best part of hanging around was that he got to see the birth of his 2 grandsons. And the reason I wanted to talk a little bit about that is because time is a very elusive thing. You know, you go to a lot of funerals, they go right to the dash poem. Who here has heard the dash poem? It talks about the dash, right? Between your dates. It's a very famous poem. It's a very good one. I refuse to read it because it's read everywhere. But it talks about time and how time is a very elusive thing. Some people try to put a title on it. They try to quantify it. They try to monetize it. I want to read this poem by the Reverend Henry Van Dyke. He's actually a Princeton theologian. It's called Katrina's Sundial, and I think it very succinctly says what time really is to all of us when we put the right lenses on and focus. And I think if you all take this poem, and you can easily Google it, that's the good part about these things, and you look at it each day, I think it'll bring your focus back to the important things on life. It says, time is too slow for those who wait. It's too swift for those who fear. It's too long for those who grieve. It's too short for those who rejoice. But for those who love, time is eternity. So now I'm going to give you what I'm preaching about. John knew that love was the only way. He knew that with whatever time he had on this earth, using love as his foundation was the only way. Did he always express it in the right way? Probably not. But what man does?
True.
But did John try? You're darn right he did. And some of you have heard me say this before. When it comes my time to die, and I'm up here, and a couple people are sitting here, if they can say, you know that DJ, he tried. He tried to be a good person. He tried to be nice to other people. He tried to share. He tried to be compassionate. He tried. That'd be enough for me. Like, I would be okay with that. Because isn't that all that's asked of us, is to just be the best version of ourselves towards one another for whatever time we have? Yeah. Right? That's it. I would be so happy with that. And I think that all of us can stand here right now and sit here together and say, John Layman tried. No question about it. But I'm going to take it another step further. I'm going to say John Layman did. As I sat with Kathy looking over the beautiful land, watching the deer, and she's telling me story after story after story, John Layman did. I want to talk about an upgrade from tried, right? But I'm going to give him another upgrade. John Layman didn't just try. John Layman did. But he didn't just did. Right, teacher? He didn't just did. He does. And if you don't see it, all you got to do is look right there. Look right there. Don't cry, I'm starting. Damn it. Thanks. What do you see there? Anybody? Not you guys. What do you see there?
Love.
Wow, somebody's paying attention. I don't see a grandpa with his grandsons working on a train. I don't see an older generation imparting wisdom on a younger generation. I see love. I see genuine, pure love that nobody, after almost 30 years of being in this funeral ministry, can tell me that when you stop breathing and you are classified as deceased by human standards, that all of this just, where'd it go? Anybody think it really stops? How can it? A double rainbow is a natural phenomenon that occurs when sunlight reflects twice within a raindrop, creating two rainbows. The secondary rainbow is fainter and more pastel than the primary rainbow, and it's spread out over a wider area of the sky. Okay, that's the scientific end of things. How they form. The first rainbow shows the color pattern backwards, and the second reflection corrects it. Double rainbows are a sign of good fortune and happiness. The primary arc is said to represent the real world, while the second represents the spiritual world. The reason I say that is because if you were in Flemington, you're all starting to nod your heads. You remember, right after John died, what happened? Who here has ever seen a double rainbow before that? Yep, no hands. Well, one. Okay.
They saw it all the way to South Jersey.
Yeah.
We've seen it in New York City.
Yeah.
They saw it
Well, we know John wanted to get his presence known. But the first thing that Kathy said was, because again, timing on this, just you can't make up when things happen and how they happen, and you can look and you could say it's coincidence and all that, but in reality, it's one hell of a coincidence. But it happened just at the time it was supposed to for Kathy and that double rainbow to be both of her girls, John's loves. So the reason I kind of did that very long, circuitous route was you all got that pain. You all got that pain. But the light of that rainbow is shining strong. It's shining so strong. And we have to remember that no matter when that rainbow comes for all of us, we need to use our time wisely. And if we want to be like John, which isn't a bad thing, and put a whole lot more love into this world and truly live, not a bad way to be. And I'm a firm believer, only by doing that could somebody stand up here and say, they tried, they did, and they do. I mentioned before I wanted to give anyone the opportunity to come forward to share a thought or a memory. I would just ask that you stand at the podium so that the microphone will pick you up wherever folks are watching from around the world. Let everybody know who you are, how you knew John or how you knew Kathy or the girls, and just speak from your heart. We're going to have some other folks in the front row go towards the end. Okay? Would anybody like to come forward? I know that's our... Yes. Our neighbor.
So my name is Diane. I'm across the street from Kathy, and I've only been there 3 years. And I remember first meetings, when Kathy first came over, I had just moved in, and she said, John came in and said, our neighbor's out weeding. You've got to go over and introduce yourself. And so Kathy came over, and that was probably a half an hour conversation when we first met and sort of hit it off. So my first couple of recollections with John. So one day, they're pulling out of the driveway. I'm probably out at my mailbox. And they stop, and John's driving. They roll the window down. And I said to Kathy, let's get together and have some wine. Do you want to do it at my house or at your house? And immediately John pipes up, do it at her house. I don't want to listen to two old ladies gab. Yep. The second time I met John, true. The second time with John is I, rather new neighbor, put my recycling out. I come home from work and I look, it's still in the can, and he's cutting the grass. And he just stops and he looks at me like, he goes, it was last week. So I consider myself very lucky that Kathy and I continue to have our wine nights, sometimes at my house, sometimes at her house. But we would eventually, if it was at Kathy's house, we would go upstairs or away from John. And then towards the end, it became a threesome. And I considered myself into the fold when he would sit there as well, willingly. But I knew John really loved Kathy because, as some of you know, Kathy is a very big Taylor Swift fan. She tells me she thinks she's a genius. She's got to be, right? Kathy told me one day, and John was not a Taylor Swift fan. No. One day she came down and he told her, sit down. And he had found a Taylor Swift concert on the TV, and he set it up for her to watch, and he sat there and watched it with her. So if that's not true love, that was love. You're welcome.
Thank you so much. That was good. Who would like to come forward next? He's got the right sneakers on.
So listening to DJ talk, I'm a therapist, a mental health therapist for a job. And one of the things that I tell my people that I work with all the time is that we go through life dealing with moments, right? Things that happen. Something happens to you, it's 2 seconds. Uncle John passed away. It was probably like that. Now we're stuck, you're stuck, we're all stuck dealing with that, going through that, defining on what that actually moment means to us. So it's like rather good or bad, we define what that really means, right? I haven't seen my family in 25 years. It's been a really long time. We have stories, we meet, we were joking right before you started speaking about how it's been 25 years and we pick up right where we just left off because we're family, we know this stuff, right? So I don't know any of you guys, and I haven't seen you guys in 25 years. But knowing Uncle John and seeing and hearing everybody talk about him, yes, he passed, but we get to define what that means, right? It means he's not with us, but moving forward, we define what that moment actually means for us. So hearing you talk kind of just really stuck with me, what I talk about with people on a consistent basis. So let us define what that means to each and every one of you individually, but as a group. So
Thank you. Thank you. I say we just got to keep talking about him and defining him the way he should be. So thank you for that. Anyone else? I know there'll be a lot more stories over wine nights. Can I come in my pajamas with my pillow too?
Of course.
And you know I will. That's the sad part. I will.
I know that.
You have to bring the dogs with
I will bring the dogs. Yes, I will bring the puppies. For those who are watching, we have 2 therapy dogs here that have been quite fun, and we all know John loved his animals.
Yes.
And I kind of think that says a lot about him too, because he saw in the animals what I think he tried to emulate in very much his own way, was that unconditional, no strings love. I see some of you who knew him well shaking your heads. In his own way, that's something that resonated with him. So I meet a lot of people over the years, and as I get to know people and then I hear so much about their family and then I meet their family, it's always very interesting for me to see, number one, how much they are like the vision that I've created in my mind, right, about the different people. So it was no surprise, well, it was a surprise because I know Kathy's daughter. I never realized she was Kathy's daughter before through EMS and other things. But it was no surprise when I really chatted with the two of them and I saw their mother's resilience and strength. But I saw in them their father's tender compassion that I think some people may not have realized was at the root of who John really was. And I'm going to ask you, because sometimes in settings like this, we turn on, we turn off, we turn on, we turn off. I know a lot of people turn me off after about a minute, so that's okay. But I'm going to ask you to turn back on when John's daughter comes forward, because I've had the privilege to kind of preview some of what she's going to say, and it's her own composure, and it is quite beautiful. Beautiful enough that I asked her to send it to me because I think it would make other families feel at ease. So I would encourage you to just really open your hearts to the words we're about to hear.
Thank you. I have a few things that I wrote. I actually wrote them prior to this event, prior to my father's passing. And I went back over and I kind of reworked them, and these are some updated drafts. The first two, I would say, are wisdom imparted to the younger generations. Don't be afraid to be your wild and weird self. Your strange tune will attract other creatures who will gladly dance with you in this life. That one's untitled, but this one has a title. It's called Barrier Island. It protects us from getting washed away, erosion from damaging winds and water, rough surf. But we are strong enough, like sand, you can stand on or build a kingdom out of. But also delicate and easily moved. We can fill in and conform with intention, and yet also be carried away helpless in a storm. We can shine, glimmer, more beautifully than any gold or gem, natural specks from the earth with energy and love of lives that came before, specks of history and lost stories of many colors and forms. I know, I'm sorry, I'm really not trying to turn you into a puddle there, but that piece just really made me think of my father, because we were beach kids from very, very young age, and many of you here have been to the beach with us and enjoyed the beach with our family as well. And it was my father who taught us as girls to not be afraid of the waves at the ocean, and that they come rolling in at different intensities. And there's some that you can easily just sort of drift over or float, and you can lie on your back and look up at the sky with your feet up and just go roll right over them. And some you have to jump. If you're strong enough and they come through, you got to jump them. And some are so intense that you have to dive right into them. And occasionally you get hit with a wave that you didn't expect was coming, and you get dragged through the sand. Sometimes tossed around quite a bit, but you just keep getting back up. So I feel, to me, this is very much what our family has been experiencing in my father's passing is it's waves. Some are very calm and we can just easily float over, and some are dragging us through the sand, but we keep getting back up. I just have two more. This one, I think this one really was inspired. I didn't realize it at the time, but was definitely inspired by my father's love for that sort of quiet solitude and having someone that you can just sit with and not speak a single word, and just that, that solitude and peacefulness in the stillness. So it's called I'd Rather. I'd rather listen to the creek than the babbling of another person. Moss and lichen are prettier than any man-made frock. Birds, wood frogs, and humming bees write better melodies than any song on the radio. All their concerts perform live and in the moment. This place is perfect for rest, short, lingering, and final. This last one, I actually started, so I have several variations of this. One I wrote actually around the time of the pandemic because I don't know, I'm one of those people who meditates and does some of these like crazy meditations. I've actually done quite a meditations on death, and it's something that sort of compelled me. I wanted to write a letter that I would leave behind to anyone who is still around after I'm gone. And then 2 years ago, I lost a friend, and I I held her children and felt that same sentiment, and knowing this dear friend of mine, Betty, that same sentiment is something that I feel like they needed to hear. And it was something that I think, their mother and I really connected on. And there's a very similar poem on the back of the cards that all of you will receive. So this is sort of an inspiration of that. And it's called I Am Here. My dear ones, please don't worry. My heart is full and I am at peace. Resist none of the waves of emotion. All are rich and necessary to fully live. Know that I am still here, everywhere. I will show up in surprising places and some predictable. We are but mind, body, and spirit. All those elements and sparks are flowing in this wild and amazing world, in the air, fire, soil, and water. Thank you.
That's why I went first, because I didn't want to follow that. Beautiful. Thank you. Beautiful. So again, knowing that was coming, I said, all right, how am I going to follow that? And I went back to what you said about leaving something for the next generation. And I truly do believe that Kathy, John would say she knows. It's been 50 plus years. I don't need to say anything. She may want me to, but I don't need to. We're here. And I think he would also say that to you girls. We got it. We know. And you're both shaking your head because you got it. So then, what's left? You two. And so I thought long and hard about what your grandpa would want you to hear at this time. Something you will not remember after you leave here today, and that's okay. I want you to go take the fishing lures that you've already raided out of his box. Grandma told me you were already over and they raided his tackle box already, which is good because he would want you to have it, right? And they've been out fishing and having...
a whole nother tackle box. That's just the one that...
The whole nother one? Yeah. I went fishing with my grandpa too, so I know it's cool stuff in there, right? Don't worry.
It's so organized too, right?
Keep it organized. You don't want to get that all tied up, man, because it's no fun. So then I thought, like, all right, what would he want to say to you? And here I am, this guy who never met you two, and I have to impart wisdom from your grandfather to you. And so I too meditated on that picture. And there's two other pictures, if you look around, when he was holding each of you at your birth. Very similar poses too. And the only reason I knew they were different were the clothing, which you don't really look at and see too much, but because your grandmother told me that, yeah, we had these two pictures. So I seeked them out, I found them. And as I looked at those two pictures and then looked at this one, I know what he would want to close out our time here today with. And I know the words that he would want all of us, but specifically the two of you, to take from this place today. It's my favorite four-letter word, not that one. It's not 11:30 at the gym.
All right. Or 6:15.
Or 6:15. That's even worse.
We've heard. We won't say who.
It's the Max people that are laughing the loudest.
So, what would Grandpa want you to hear? It's a poem by Nikki Banis. I can give it to Mom and Dad. Maybe one day you stick it on the wall. But I promise you, if you are having a tough day, even if you're having a good day, hell, any day you're privileged to wake up in the morning, I would encourage you to read this, look at it, and just let it ground you. Because this is what your grandfather, I am convinced, wanted for you and frankly for all of us. And it's entitled Hope. If you only carry one thing throughout your entire life, let it be hope. Let it be hope that better things are always ahead. Let it be hope that you can get through even the toughest of times. Let it be hope that you are stronger than any challenge that comes your way. Let it be hope that you are exactly where you are meant to be right now and that you are on the path to where you are meant to be. Because during these times, hope will be the very thing that carries you through. I don't need to tell you, he was proud of you. You guys can do anything, be anything, play for the Steelers, play for the Pirates, or become the quarterback of the Jets. Actually win us a game. But you can do anything you want if you live a little more like your grandfather and do things with genuine love. And keep your eyes open to a bright future that no matter how tough things are, you got this. You got this because of the love of Mom and Dad, the love of your brotherly one to the other, your grandmother, your aunt, your uncle, or your family and friends. Sometimes in this world where noise is so prevalent, we forget to see that. It always amazed me how sometimes that negativity can outshine all the light that is there. Sometimes as Americans specifically, we default to negativity, and I just don't understand why. Maybe it's on some level easier. So I would encourage you guys to always find hope in all situations and always to keep taking one step forward. Deal? Deal. And you'll always catch the biggest fish that way. We're all praising John today here, and that's great. But I also think John would want to say thank you to all of you. And this says, thank you for being a piece of John's life. And it has Sandy Hook on here with a very young John. And if you go like this next to each one of these guys, you'll think I stole their picture. And it has 1949 on the front and 2024. I'm not going to argue about those dates being too close together. We don't have that choice. That's time. And on the back, there's a more weathered John. And it says, you're a piece of the puzzle of someone else's life. You never know where you fit, but others will fill the holes in their lives with pieces of you. We're all going to patch up the holes in our heart with John's physical absence, with memories and love. But I think what John would also want all of us to know, besides living our life with love and hope, is that we affect everybody else in ways we could never imagine. And we can use that in a good way, or that could come out in a very negative way. Choose love. And on the back, if you're wondering why I put a bunch of cows, he used to like to moo at them, because during that little episode 18 years ago that I mentioned to you about, he was saved by 3 cow valves in his heart. That lasted him all these many years. So his mooing was a term of endearment and gratefulness. So, concluding these sessions is always difficult because some people have heard what I've said, other people have not. Some people are still angry, some people are not. Some people just want to go watch the game. Some people do not. But as I was thinking about how to conclude, I wanted to go with another poet, prophet kind of person. And who here has read Khalil Gibran? Anybody? I had a feeling you did. So I love Gibran because he's talked about life and death and marriage and all that stuff, right? And so I despise the phones for a lot of reasons, but I love them in the sense that when I have a weird thought, I can investigate that. So I like cemeteries. I know that may seem odd. But I like cemeteries not because I'm the undertaker, but because they tell a town's history, right? They tell, you go to any town and you go to a cemetery, it's amazing what you can see. And then if you start looking at the epitaphs, big word guys, epitaph, that's something engraved on a stone, and it talks about a person's life. When you look at the epitaphs of people during different time periods, you can learn about that time period, and then if you look enough, you realize we're all telling the same story, and we're all fighting the same battles. And if you ground your life in love and hope, the epitaphs would be a whole lot easier. Not hard, see? I just looped it all together. It's not that hard. But I wondered what Gibran, who spoke about all these different things, right? And was so influential in so many people's lives, what did he have on his stone? So I want to end our time with that. But I'm going to ask you all now to do a little something. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Remember, I can see you. Just got to do it. I want you to picture the youngest John you ever knew. Can you see him? I want you to picture him a little bit older now. I want you to hear his laugh. Can you hear it? Keep your eyes closed. I want you to picture John, kind of the oldest version you knew him. I still want you to hear his laugh, but now, more importantly, I want you to feel his hug. And I want you to hear him whispering that it will be all right. And I want you to listen to these words from Gibran that are on his stone. I am alive like you, and I am standing beside you. Close your eyes and look around. You will see me in front of you. Read that last part one more time. close your eyes and look around. You will see me in front of you.